Welcome to the Longevity Program, a program designed to help you live longer, stronger. Now, last week, I talked about the power of not eating. Well, not eating regularly anyway, that's fasting. This week, I want to talk about another key component of Nourish in the Longevity Program. And that key component is eliminating processed foods, often called ultra-processed foods, and eliminating refined sugar out of my diet. And there are some really powerful reasons why I'm looking to eliminate refined sugar out of my diet. And to help me do that, I'm avoiding as much as I can these ultra-processed foods. And I'm going to talk about that today. As always, I've got my trusty notes to help me make sure that I'm just capturing the key benefits that I've summarized as I've gone through my research for this program for myself. And so I'll look at these as we go along. Now, there are three powerful reasons why I'm eliminating ultra-processed foods as much as I possibly can. And I know that we live in a crazy busy world, and we, in many ways, will struggle to consistently eliminate ultra-processed foods out of our diet. But there are some really good reasons why we should do this as much as possible, and I'm going to get into that today. Also, in ultra-processed foods, you will find refined sugar. And I'm going to talk about that in what I would call a day in the life. I've got in front of me a bunch of foods that are replicating a day in the life of someone in today's modern world. And I want to bring for everyone a really clear identification of some of the hazards that lurk within what we're eating every single day. One of the massive hazards is refined sugar. Now, there are three powerful reasons why I want to eliminate refined sugar out of my diet as much as I possibly can. And these three powerful reasons, I believe, are generally understood in society, but let me just touch on them. The first powerful reason why I'm looking to reduce, or if possible, eliminate refined sugar out of my diet is that refined sugar, and I'm looking at it right here, unnecessarily increases the empty calories that I consume, and that can absolutely lead to obesity. Now, obesity, and we've seen it in so many studies, has so many ill effects on longevity. The second powerful reason that I'm looking to eliminate refined sugars out of my diet is because they have been shown to increase hypertension. Now, that's high blood pressure, and they have a correlation to heart disease. Now, heart disease is the number one killer in the US, in Australia, and I would hazard in most developed countries. That's a pretty powerful reason. And powerful reason number three is that refined sugars on a consistent basis have been linked to a number of cancers. So that's three powerful reasons. And I've taken those from studies that I've listened to, and there are really, now remember, I am not a doctor, and I've stated that so many times, but I do review both YouTube and audio books from doctors to get this information for myself. Now, once again, always talk to your own practitioner to make sure anything that you're doing is right for you. That said, if you are interested in understanding further this information, then there are two really great resources that I would recommend. The first one is a YouTube by a guy called Dr. Robert Lustig, MD, and it's called Sugar, the Bitter Truth. A really great, it's about an hour long YouTube where he gives a presentation on sugar, and he gets very much into the detail of sugar and how it interacts with our body. Another really great resource is a book called Outlive by Dr. Peter Attia, and that's a really great general resource, including some of these concepts. So really two great resources for you to go and have a look and understand how sugar and refined foods interact with our body. Now, I'm not going to get into that because I'm not a doctor, as I said. But what I do know is I do know packaging and products really well. And I would identify that there is something in the products that we eat every day that we are just not aware of. And a lack of awareness can absolutely increase our risk of inadvertently hurting ourselves. So one of the things that Dr. Lustig talks about in Sugar, the Bitter Truth is a really interesting stat. And I'm going to read to it here. So prior to World War II, the average intake of sugar by Americans was 16 to 24 grams. By 1977, that had increased to an average of 37 grams. Now, he says that this is very much when high fructose corn syrup, a really nasty type of sugar, and listen to his YouTube and you'll understand that further. But that's when this really started to be used. And then up to now, the average sugar intake is up to 73 grams. Now, why is that such a challenge? And by the way, this is not in America. This is in developed worlds with foods that I'm going to get into in a second. So why is that such a challenge? Well, let's get into that. And further, why is that happening? Now, I don't believe that people decide that they're going to just head off and ignore the dangers and ignore what the doctors and the general thought leaders are saying, and that is you need to avoid refined sugar because it can have some really nasty impacts on you. I don't believe that people are saying, I don't care about that. What I do believe is that people either do not understand how to look at and read packaging, and they also aren't thinking about the cumulative effect of sugar in our bodies and in our diet. So I'm going to talk to that today. So I have developed a day in the life of, and we're going to go through very, very quickly, and we're going to have a look at some of the things that are in the food that we eat. So imagine that I am, I believe, following a relatively healthy diet. I'm living my life in this crazy busy world, and I'm just going to eat a standard food. So for breakfast this morning, I am going to have some muesli. Now I'm going to have a cup of muesli, and looking at that, that looks like this. So that's actually, I don't know whether you can see it or not, but that's not a big bowl. That's about a third of what I would call a standard bowl. So if you ate more, you've got to think that you're going to be eating more sugar than I'm just about to go through. So in that cup of muesli, let's see. Now, one of the things that many people don't realize is that when you look at the nutritional panel and the ingredients, and please, 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 if you do need to eat packaged food, please always before you buy it or always before you consume it, at least once, just to get an understanding, have a look at the nutritional panel. And have a look at that nutritional panel and see what the various energy levels are. Now, I'm going to focus on sugar today. Now, there's a nutritional panel with all the numbers, and there's the ingredients list. Now, what many people don't realize is that the ingredients list goes from highest to lowest. The value or the amount of whatever substance is in that packet. So looking at this one, for example, the first ingredient on the ingredients list, reading it from start to finish, is oats. The first ingredient is oats. That means the highest percentage of anything that you will find in this packet is oats. Now, the second ingredient is golden syrup. Now, golden syrup is a form of sugar. So golden syrup is the second ingredient. That means the second highest percentage that you will get in this packet is the addition of a sugar. It's not a naturally occurring sugar. And one of the challenges that we have in packaging is that unless it specifically calls it out, and some packaging does, which is great, but other packaging will not specifically call out the added sugar. All you'll see is sugars. So I've looked at products today that have the added sugar called out, which is great. It really helps us. But it doesn't often say, well, the percentage of the added sugar is blah. It just goes oats, golden syrup, or oats and sugar. And you need to work out what that is. And then what you do is you go across to the nutritional panel and have a look. Anyway, what I'm showing is that this can be a little bit confusing. Let's keep it super simple. Have a look at your ingredients list and have a look how far up that ingredients list your sugars are. And that's going to be a really good indication of just how much sugar you're going to be putting in your body. Okay, so let's have a look at this muesli. So muesli, We've got that 1 cup. Now, many people would have more than that, but I'm just going to say that's 1 cup. Now, out of interest, on the back of this pack, it talks about serving size and it talks about per 100 gram. Now, serving size, this 1 cup here, that's 128 grams. The serving size is 45 grams. I don't know who's eating that. Maybe a mouse? I couldn't eat 45 grams and feel that I'm going to be full. So one of the challenges that we also face is that serving sizes can often be understated. And so people think that they're getting, oh, it's a serving size, I'm just getting either this amount of calories, this amount of fat, this amount of sugar. Actually, you may well be eating much more than you think you're eating. So 1 cup, oats, golden syrup, sugar. It's the second highest content in this packet. Sugar is 25.2 grams. That's 6 teaspoons. Now I'm going to get, we'll tally this up as we go through. Okay, I'm going to throw in some yogurt on top of my on top of my cereal. Now the yogurt, that's 150 grams. This is not a big thing. We're just going to throw it on. That's a number of just tablespoons, and away you go. Milk and milk solids. Next one, sugar. That's 3.14 teaspoons in that. I'm going to get myself a glass of juice, just a 250ml glass of juice, not a big gulp, just a standard glass of juice. Water, juice, sugar, third content. Teaspoons, just over 6 teaspoons of sugar in my glass of juice. Now you might say, I have no added sugar in my juice. Please watch Dr. Lustig's Sugar, the Bitter Truth to understand, even if you have no added sugar in your juice, the sugars, the fructose in that juice can really give you some challenges. So please have a look at that if you want a bit more detail. And then finally, I'm doing the right thing. I'm going to get some soy milk. I'm going to put that on my cereal. Soy milk, sugar, 5 grams. Water, soy protein, corn maltodextrin, which spikes blood sugar, vegetable oils, and then sugar added in. So 5 grams. So that's my breakfast. It's a pretty standard breakfast, some muesli, a bit of soy milk, some yogurt, and a juice. Morning tea, I'm going to have myself and I love this, Nature Valley. So it's natural, but I've got oats and then sugar. So this bar here that I'm going to be having, it's not massive, it's just a little bar. Well, actually it's 2 mini bars, but it's a bar. Teaspoons of sugar, 2.7. And then I'm going to have myself an almond latte, which is 250 mils of almond milk in with my latte. Teaspoons of sugar added, 2.05. Now, this isn't scientific. I haven't got out the beaker and burnt down and worked out the exact ratio of added sugar versus natural sugar. I've done the best to have a look at where it says that sugar has been added in and had a look at the nutritional panel, but it's going to give the trend, and the important thing is the trend line here. Whether it's slightly up or slightly down, it will be the right trend. Okay, so we've had our morning tea. Then we go into lunch. Now lunch, I'm going to have a brioche burger. I'm going to make it at home. So I've got my brioche bun here, super yummy. 1 bun, flour, water, third ingredient, sugar. Teaspoons in 1 bun, 2 teaspoons of sugar. Then I'm going to have a plant-based black bean burger, which is 1 patty. And if you look through the ingredients list, which has got plenty of different ingredients in it, you've got fructose, you've got sugar in the blend, and as best as I can determine, the sugars are about 6.25 grams, which is almost 1.5 teaspoons. Now, an Australian teaspoon, by the way, of sugar is 4.2 grams. I've thrown in some lettuce and I've thrown in some tomato on my burger. Now that's a natural ingredient, no added sugar, clearly, so nothing to add there. That's it for lunch. I'm just having my 1 burger with my 1 patty and a bit of lettuce. Then we go to dinner. I've been pretty rushed. I've got myself a healthy plant-based lasagna because I want to do the right thing. It's plant-based. Now, out of interest, we've got a bunch of different elements on this ingredients panel, but there are sugar in each, so in the sauce and in the base and so on and so forth. So the sugars are 18.9 grams, teaspoons, about 4.5 teaspoons of sugar. I'm going to have some broccoli and some carrot with my lasagna, which is awesome, and therefore no added sugar in that because that's perfectly natural. And then it's been a pretty hard day, so I'm going to have myself, now this is a little tub of ice cream. And so I'm going to have about a quarter of that tub, a couple of spoonfuls. So a quarter of that tub. Now, this is really interesting. Ice cream is water, sugar, glucose corn syrup, invert sugar, molasses. There are a whole lot of different types of sugars piled into this ice cream. If I have that quarter of a tub, I'm looking at about 6.5 teaspoons of sugar. Now, just out of interest, if you were having a really bad night and you were just going to have the tub, which many people might do because it's not a massive tub, and if you were going to sit down and say, I'm going to have this tub, that tub is going to be 26 teaspoons. So, going through all of this, we've just gone through a day in the life. Now, you can see here that I haven't put any soft drinks in, and because I know that there has been so much information around, please avoid soft drinks and the added sugar that goes into soft drinks. So I didn't want to add that in. I didn't add in a whole bunch of different snacks through the day, apart from my morning tea muesli bar. This, I would think, is a fairly normal amount of food for an average person, using both a mix of some whole foods, because I think I'm wanting to do the right thing with my broccoli and my tomato and my lettuce and so on, and some pretty standard packaged products. The interesting thing, as I've gone through, is I've just mentioned, well, there's 6 teaspoons of sugar here and 2 teaspoons of sugar there and so on. In this average day, I wonder how much sugar I've actually accumulated, added sugar I've accumulated in this one day. Well, this is really interesting. If you tally up all of those grams and all of those teaspoons that I've just taken you through, you are looking at 149.8 grams of sugar. Let's round that up for simplicity. 150 grams of added sugar into what I've just eaten today. Now, what does that look like in teaspoons? That is 35 2/3 teaspoons. So here's a cup. There's a level teaspoon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. I'm not going to bore you and go through 4, 5, 6 up to 35 2/3, but I have pre-prepared that. That is, give or take, and as I say, this hasn't been scientifically broken down, but this is an estimate. Even if you, I don't know, took 25% off that, even if you took 50% off that, look at, and from a scale point of view, that's how big that cup is. That is what is in this day in the life that I've just taken you through. Now, I can tell you, when I went through that, it even took me aback a little bit about how much sugar you can easily put into your diet without even really considering it or thinking it. It's like compound interest. And imagine that not just for one day, but for every day this week, and then for every week in this year and so on. That is a lot of sugar. So imagine if I just added a little bit of water in. And imagine if I then stir that up. And imagine if I then drank the whole thing. I'm not going to. Even just that little sip was just way too much. Now, obviously, who would, in their right mind, grab that cup of sugar that I've just shown you and drink it? No one would. And yet every day, completely unknowingly, I believe in so many cases, that is exactly what the average person may well be putting in their bodies. And we're seeing that in the statistics that are being discussed every single day around obesity and around heart disease and around cancers and so on and so forth. This is what we're looking at. It is in our faces. It's right under our noses. And it does not lead to a really great life. It does not lead to either lifespan, so that's the length of our life, or a healthy life while we're actually in that life. So this is something that I just wanted to bring everyone's attention to. Just how much sugar, if you're not aware of what you're eating, you can put into your body. It is so easy to avoid. And the easiest way to avoid it is to, when you're going to grab something, pick up the pack, have a look at the back, have a look at the ingredients list, and just look at what point in time do you see sugar added into that product? What is the ratio? How much are you consuming? And if you feel like you want to consume something, then knock yourself out. But at least, please, 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 just know what you're putting into your body, and you can avoid something like that, and you can live longer, and you can live stronger. Until next time.